Wix Studio, one end-to-end web creation platform for your agency to deliver exceptional work with absolute efficiency.
Online visibility is not luck, it's a strategy. Combine SEO, digital PR, and content distribution to grow. Visit adz.com to learn more.
This is you without Collaborator. Invisible, just another seagull. And this is you with Collaborator. Get noticed in the AI era.
Hello, Brighton. I'm back again. Got some really lovely data to show everybody, which I'm sure you're all going to really appreciate in the post-lunch food coma that you're all in on a Friday. And as you can see from the image above me, April was a very long time ago since I was last here. Since then, I have grown my hair back and I've become a dad. So a lot changes, thank you. A lot changes in SEO, it happens really quickly, but I'm not going to waste any more time on that because there's loads to get into on this data. So what's actually changed in search? We know it's now a mix of classic Google, social discovery, LLM answers layered on top, and the advent of potential agentic browsing creeping up, and Atlas and so forth. So is any of it actually valuable for your brands? I think the answer is sometimes it can be, especially when we can measure it and we can tie it to our outcomes. So just a quick timeline to get us on the same page. We obviously had BERT, which improved language understanding, MUM, then broadening those topics and modalities. Generative AI came afterwards, obviously, in 2024. SGE became AI overviews on the SERPs, and now we've obviously got sort of AI-first search productizing it all. So what's happened here really is the surfaces have changed, but the quality signals haven't massively. So things like clarity, evidence, trust, the stuff that you as SEOs are all used to. And each step here has kind of reduced the guesswork for engines, and it's increased that premium on extractable facts, the truth. We treat LLM search really as kind of a part of SEO. I don't think this is massively novel as a discipline. It's just SEO on new surfaces due to the similarities that we're seeing. Again, the same fundamentals, but potentially completely new surface metrics when we're looking at sort of these 4 pillars of AI within search. And in terms of a reality check for 2025, by the numbers, we've got maybe 34% of adults saying they've ever used ChatGPT in the US, and amongst people who are using AI, a really meaningful slice of over 60% are now reporting daily or near daily usage of AI tools. But Google, as you can see, sort of further on the right there, Google owns the space. They've got a 90% search market share, as well as 96% of sort of web referrals overall. LLMs seem like a bit of a drop in the ocean. However, that AI referral base is growing really quickly. Just looking at June sort of 2024 to 2025, we're seeing triple-digit year-on-year growth. So if you're not investing in this stuff, you should at least be learning about the surfaces and the metrics that are sort of involved with it. And again, looking at sort of the adoption trend lines as well, we've got some projections there, sort of low estimates and high estimates, but we can see that usage of LLMs, not just as search engines, but as helpers, it's moved from curiosity to actual habit for people. And that's enough for us to actually justify testing. Not necessarily having a complete pivot from SEO, but even with those conservative projections, usage is definitely on the up, but it doesn't seem to be replacing traditional search yet, more complementing it. What we don't want to do is start trying to reverse engineer the LLMs or the models. Exploiting the trick is just repeating old school bad SEO. But now, tech's gotten better. We've got models updating more rapidly. The models are much better at defending from exploits, he says, when you can see that, ChatGPT's Atlas is prone to prompt injection, etc. But with all of these new things get patched very quickly. The tech is caught up, and instead of trying to hack a system, we would rather measure it, map it, optimize it, and then remeasure not only what we did, but also just to update our actual understanding of how these models work, because they are changing so often. And we looked at sort of traffic and outcomes, LLM visibility, AI overview patterns across multiple studies, and we tied it all together using our brand boosting tooling as well. Just as an overview of the studies, we've started, and it's a currently ongoing meta-analysis of our individual AI output studies. We've tied sample outputs across our LLM and AIO studies, just to performance metrics, outcomes, revenue, etc. The difference in our data here, compared to sort of a lot of the huge studies that you're seeing floating around, is that this data is all very specific for our brands. So whether it's prompts, keywords, behaviors, we did all of this research from the lens of our brand specifically. So we're going to look at the methodology a bit closely in a nutshell. For study A, looking at segmenting LLM referrals versus organic ones, we compared revenue per session, events per session, conversions, and more metrics just to help us understand the differences here in user intent. For study B, we took seed keywords, we mapped them to intent, we generated prompts for them, and then we captured and analyzed responses just to help us understand a rough share of voice metric for ourselves, for our brands. And then for study C, which was done in 2024, and again, we update these studies ongoing, but we continuously logged AI overview citations between the SGE beta and the AIO launch. You can get the full and sort of verbose methodology for all of these studies with the QR at the end of the talk, because there's just too much to go into on a slide like this. But we tie all of those studies together with our brand boosting SEO toolkit. So we built this based on the data science team's research and development. We work in tandem with our organic media and SEO teams, and it works to improve our AI visibility mainly because of the overlap that we have with SEO. And to keep those results sort of credible, we tried our best to use larger sample sizes, and we also apply statistical tests to a lot of these metrics, just to confirm that any differences that we saw weren't just random noise. So here's kind of what we discovered, and do you think LLM visitors performed well? Well, yeah, essentially. In our prompt set, which is again around 185,000 for this specific study, about 97% of our answers included more than one reference. So roughly around 9 references per answer, but there was a bit of a skew to the right, meaning that quite a few answers cite dozens of sources. So the job here, compared to a Google SERP, isn't obviously one position. It's about having consistent inclusion within this bundle of sources. We tried to quantify this on LLM results just by looking at coverage and prominence as two things. Coverage for us was sort of the percentage of AI answers that mention or cite our brand. Prominence was how high we appeared in the answer. So, whether we're the first cited source or just one of the sources in the list. And then we weight those responses by intent, so informational, commercial, transactional. And then we examined how that traffic from these sort of AI answers behaved once it hit our site. So we saw that LLM referrals were delivering around 29 seconds longer engagement than our organic sessions when comparing like for like, and about 34% more key events per session than organic as well. So it was a much smaller volume compared to the amount of organic referrals we're getting, but greater intent from what we've seen, and it seems to be punching above its weight on revenue as well. We can go into why we think AI sort of referrals might be more qualified than organic, but there's a lot of conjecture within that. And I think what we've seen here is that when your sort of share of voice, i.e. your prominence and how often you're on these LLMs, when that rises, we often see sort of events per session and sometimes revenue per session lift as well. So for us, we want to be just tracking that visibility, tying it to outcomes such as events per session, revenue per session, and then we can start to apply that to our next sprint. And we want to do that where there's value, and if the value is higher than the cost, then it's something that you can definitely add in, as long as you've got that organic stability guardrail or SEO on the side. Also, AIOs don't necessarily value that sort of number one rank when it comes to organic. So only a small fraction of AI overviews are linking to rank one results in our study. 8% there means that 92% of queries are creating opportunities beyond ranking in number one. So we want to target top 3 inclusion within these LLMs, and we're not necessarily after that vanity number one as much as we would be with Google SERP. This is a little table on sort of the Gemini study data set that we've got. It's looking sort of at an automotive brand's keyword universe, so about 20,000 prompts. It's not all of search, it's hyper-specific for our niche here, but we found that our brand has a very, very strong prominence here due to the evidence that we've actually built on our pages as a part of our SEO track. So what we've seen again is that overlap with strong SEO actually helping us in LLM results. And this brand also is converting a huge amount of commercial appearances into number one, so around 51% when we're cited. There we go. When I say this data is fresh, I really do mean it is fresh. I just added this maybe 2 hours ago because one of our data scientists, shout out to Stephen, just sent this to me as the analyses for the white paper that goes with this study is ongoing right now. And I thought you'd want to see some of this data as well. So when we are keeping things sort of specific to our brands, for us, for example, the automotive category that I spoke about before, we've got 200K prompts here, and rather than looking at 1 million prompts across a huge amount of categories, we've got much more actionable data because, again, it's much more related to our client base. Quantitatively here, organic ranking only explained about 3% of LLM citation positions. So the correlation between sort of organic ranking and LLM citation is actually quite weak here. Rank helped a little bit, but LLM assistants were reordering for answerability. Assistants reorder the information for answerability and evidence. So it's why that top 3 inclusion is happening, even if you're not ranked at number 1. We also saw that LLMs skewed to evidence and knowledge pages and hubs, not just the product pages. So seeing that events per session and revenue per session also are higher on more evidence-rich landing pages. And to me, it looks quite a lot like EEAT in practice, having a summary first, proving that with the extractable information, and then deepening that knowledge for the user. And we can also look at sort of how big that LLM slice is as well, what that share is compared to your Google traffic. So by category, we had quite a large variance between different sort of brands, verticals, categories. Our LLM share ranged from about 1% to around 4 to 5%. So we can use this to prioritize where there is a potential surface for us to start to optimize and whether the costs are worth it for our brands. So that's a lot of data, and you'll be getting a lot more data after this, but what can you do with some of this and some of the wider industry knowledge that you've seen sort of today and yesterday as well? Well, I think good EEAT is a really, really good start, and that's really going to help you, and it's not going to take away from what you're doing on the SEO side as well. What seems to be working now is obviously having a precise, skimmable answer at the top of a page, putting that summary first. But also you want to prove your authority. Think specs, tables, policies, references, having your author or date there for freshness as well. And then deepen that knowledge, make the knowledge valuable so that an LLM wants to put it on the answer pane. So think comparisons, FAQs, again, EEAT, decision criteria. Why should you pick this over that and the like? And this essentially aligns with how assistants are composing answers, as you might have seen in some of the other talks. And we will see sort of lifts in coverage or prominence when we target that. But again, want to hammer home, just sounds like really, really good EEAT or really, really good SEO. So here's sort of 5 levers that, again, they can overlap with the SEO world, but these are to help you create leverage for growth in general when it comes to AIOs or LLM results. But pop your summary in there early, add schema or make sure your entities are clean and they're not ambiguous. Make sure your evidence is extractable and freshness is visible with your dates, etc., and your updates. Consistency needs to be there as well across surfaces. We're not just talking about searching on LLMs or traditional Google search. You should have consistency everywhere so that your brand has that consistency for an LLM and it helps them to cite you. It's essentially good SEO with some added extras here for that machine legibility. And we can get quick wins by kind of figuring out how we want to target these actions. So we find prompts where we're named but not linked. We can jump in and add summary first content to the URLs that we've mapped to it. We can add evidence blocks, entity hooks, etc. We rerun that and watch sort of coverage in top 3, again, measuring sort of a share of voice. And then we track our referrals. So we've got 133 of these sort of unlinked pages for this specific category queued up. So we can jump in on a list-by-list basis and just start fixing the patterns for our top hubs. And again, mapping those prompts to target URLs so we can track this over time. So is GEO, or I'm not going to do the whole EIEIO thing, but is it the big new thing that's going to double your agency revenue and more? I don't think it's this like magic thing. I think we're headed in a certain direction, but I'm not going to come up here and be like, oh, you're going to triple your revenue, because at the end of the day, you've got to be honest with your own brands. And for us, we've seen that these results aren't universal. They're intent and industry dependent. So we only want to invest really where that coverage exists for us, or there's potential for that coverage to exist, and we recheck that on a monthly basis. So we know that assistants are favoring sort of informational over navigational pages. Coverage is varying by industry and cadence here. So we want to decide where to play before we even decide to write a word. We also know that panels bundle sources. So again, the automotive prompt example that I talked about before, when we appeared, we had competitors co-appearing around a third of the time. And when we were absent, their co-appearance dropped. You'd think that's obvious because we're in the same category. But the goal here is more that consistent top 3 inclusion is definitely what's potentially earning that click, not a solitary number 1 citation, which is, I think, a different study in itself. Surfaces essentially are always going to change. Principles don't, but surfaces do. So don't mimic phrasing. You want to make your pages easy to cite. You want to have clear claims, visible proof, clean entities, and again, like I mentioned before, current dates. And then measure that weekly. If you're seeing that needle move, double down, and if it doesn't, move on, try something different. It's all about experimentation at the end of the day, because we're back in a very novel place when it comes to SEO. It's almost like a wild west again because of all the stuff that's going on with the AI world. But to me, I think GEO is basically just SEO, but also this whole debate is very semantic. We're still optimizing search at the end of the day. If I use an LLM to search for something, or if I use an LLM as a search engine, then if I'm optimizing for it, I'm doing search engine optimization. But it's kind of irrelevant because we're not building a separate GEO function right now. There's no need from the numbers that we're seeing. This sits under SEO for us, and we're not trying to sell this brand new shiny thing. We're informing our brands of the changes that are happening within the search world instead, and within AI. So do we make a GEO playbook? I don't think so, not yet. We keep an SEO playbook. We add the LLM sort of share of voice tracking, page level citation readiness checks. We update what we're doing within SEO, and as things branch out, we can maybe start to have that debate on GEO, AIO, LLMO, whatever you want to be calling it. But if your traffic is here, then it's a good time to start looking into it. Chances are it isn't a huge percentage of your traffic, but I think it doesn't harm you to be ready and to have the data for when that switch might potentially happen. And when it comes to sort of the GEO versus SEO debate as well, we've sometimes seen sort of bad SEO harming your rankings, but we can also see sort of GEO practice also harm your organic side. What harms the organic side is potentially bad SEO rebranded as GEO. So thin doorway pages, overtuned copy, AI slop, duplicated topics, that kind of thing. What helps both platforms is, again, that evidence clarity, entity consistency, having appropriate schema, tidy canonicals. On our landing pages, evidence pages and hubs are getting these AI clicks, but thin shell pages obviously weren't. So we're seeing a lot of parallels with the organic world here too. And just as another addition, we've seen that chat assistants they've long piggybacked on web search outputs, and they're going to continue to do so. Google's sort of add num equals 100 removal, limited deep result access, and it's skewed measurement for obviously a lot of tools. I think a lot of people will be aware of it. But since 2023, ChatGPT's browsing's used Bing as sort of a default search layer. We've got OpenAI's in-app search using a blend of search text, so Bing, etc. And we've also got Atlas by OpenAI right now, just crawling Google searches for things. So, for the age of agentic AI, good SEO might essentially just be what you're after, as opposed to a whole new vertical within GEO. And I think that's potentially why it's a semantic debate. The line right now is just very much blurred. Maybe this will change in the future, but it really does depend on the platforms and services available to us as consumers and users. And there are issues, there are caveats. As we saw a massive plummet with citations for Reddit when this issue happened. So I'm not saying it's a causatory factor, but obviously it looks to be a huge factor within what's happened with the drop in citations for Reddit. So just to wrap things up a little bit, Should we be targeting AI or LLM optimizations for our brand at all? Again, treat it like any other SEO or marketing investment. Invest the time where that coverage exists, where the economics work, and other channels might remain unaffected. And do it if there's a real surface for it. If the economics are working and it seems to be higher than the cost that you're putting in, then it's worth it for you. You could, for example, test this by doing a 6-week pilot, upgrade your evidence blocks on maybe 10 pages, recrawl it, remeasure. And again, if that value there is more than the cost and your organic is staying healthy, your SEO work is staying healthy, scale. And then if not, stop, redeploy, change something. Rather than carrying fixed thresholds from us, just run a protocol on your own data because it's going to be more specific to your client base. And LLMs answer, they don't rank pages. So we again, want to track that coverage, track the metrics that we're seeing right now to be able to make changes for our brands, and doing it continuously is going to help us. And those principles in general work across channels. This isn't just an LLM thing, this is a marketing thing. And if it's not going to be LLM search, where are we headed, right? I think for your brand, there's largely going to be a huge share of your traffic from organic search, but at the end of the day, we've got Google, who are indexing sites like crazy. They have sort of the biggest knowledge base when it comes to this. And so everyone is going to be leaning on Google. And with AI mode coming through and with that surfacing more and more, Google essentially owns that search habit, and it's baking AI straight into the default results via the AI mode. So it's just that vast data set that gives them a massive leg up. And again, it's not necessarily just going to be on LLMs. Your traffic is essentially going to be everywhere. So that was a lot. That was a lot of data. So thank you for sitting through all that, especially after the food code that I mentioned before. Scan that QR code. Grab a picture of it now if you can, and then scan it later if your phone's being weird. But you'll get access to all of the slides, but more importantly, the continuation of this ongoing study, including some follow-up content, a webinar with our data scientists, and a bit of a collaboration as well with our SEO team. But yeah, thanks for having me, everyone.
DemandSphere. Limitless visual insights from the SERPs. Unlimited dashboards and users. Easy to use and easy to scale your growth to new levels.
Wait, before you go, want to stay on track with where search is heading? Download Search Pulse by Reflect Digital today. It's game-changing.
You've got two blind spots, keyword rankings and LLM visibility. Now, most tools solve one, but AccuRanker solves both. See how at booth number 18.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.